All right. Good morning, everybody. My name is Julia. I am a recent graduate, and I'm here to talk about my independent project with Dr. Maldonado. So I work for Habitat for Humanity here in Anchorage, Alaska, um, and we do quite a wide variety of things, but largely we are here to build affordable housing. Um, so just a quick overview of what kinds of research I was looking at. The main question was, what effect does Habitat and our program have on the constituents that we're working with, largely in the long term? We just came up on our 30th anniversary. So we're trying to get as much data as possible about all of our previous homeowners and current homeowners, and find out, what worked for them, what didn't work for them, really gain as much feedback as possible and make some recommendations for adjusting our program moving forward. So I did that through a couple different methods. Largely, I did a survey that went out to all of our constituents, both paper and digitally. But I also did a small focus group, and I did some individual interviews with some of the participants. And the outcomes that I had was, a variety of feedback. I'll go over the data here in a minute. But I was looking for, both positive and negative feedback, and also renewing the connections with our homeowners, especially after COVID. We hadn't been in contact with a lot of our current homeowners. So it was a really great chance to reconnect with them, let them know, who's here, who's available to them, any questions that they have, and make that connection moving forward. So I found a couple different things in my 30-year survey. Overall, the main big takeaway for my director and my board was that only 67% of our homeowners are content with their overall habitat experience, which is, not a bad percentage, but is a passing grade at best. So there were obviously, a lot of room for improvement in what we were doing with our program. And largely what we found was that, the application process and the main program part, which is usually about a year of us working one-on-one with these clients, worked really well for them. The communication was good. They enjoyed the staff that they got to work with, but there wasn't a lot of process following them closing on the house. There was not a lot of follow-up. Some of them even, quote unquote, felt thrown to the wolves. They didn't necessarily feel prepared to be a full homeowner by the time we were done with the process, which is where they should be ideally. 67% felt at least highly supported following their move, and we have tried to improve that over the past year, and that's kind of where we're heading in this coming year. 83% felt highly supported during the actual normal program process, the application, the financial literacy classes that they're taking, the sweat equity that they have to do, which is kind of what we expected, that our program itself was working really well for them. The follow-up could maybe use a little more support. And surprisingly, a good majority of our homeowners were referred by somebody else. So they hadn't necessarily received this information from our mass marketing when we put out our application. They had almost always been referred by a friend or a family member who was familiar with our program in some way. And they made some really great recommendations. Of course, improving our language accessibility. The homeowners that we work with here are largely immigrants and refugees. So English is usually not their first language. It might be their second, third, or fourth language. So making sure that we are making our application process and all of the written documents and that part of that as accessible as possible, which is definitely what we try to do, but obviously we can always do that better. Consistency with our homeowner services staff. That was a lot from our more recent homeowners who we had gone through quite a lot of turnover with that particular staff position. So that was totally understandable. Clear timelines is sometimes hard to accomplish for us, but we do really try our best to make sure that our homeowners know what they're getting into when they start the process, what their closing timeline looks like. But there can definitely be some more consistency with that. And then the last two were really that preparedness for home ownership, like we were talking about. A lot of them were not prepared or familiar with working with condo and homeowner associations, which is totally understandable. That's not something that you often have to do as a renter. So preparing them for how to navigate that space, as well as just general homeowner, home maintenance types of activities. So overall, I didn't get as many respondents as I would have ideally liked, but we got some really, really good feedback that my board and my director found very interesting and that we're trying to implement in the future. And this is a survey that we're going to continue to adapt and put on every year, at least with our new incoming homeowners, as well as anyone else who is part of our program and would like to follow up with some feedback. So thanks so much for your time. That's all I got.
Hi, my name is Ivy, and I am from Atlanta, Georgia, but I'm actually currently in Monterey, California as an AmeriCorps member. And I would say that the way I personalize my learning can best be described through service because I love volunteering. Uh, as I mentioned, I am an AmeriCorps member, and my program actually focuses on volunteer infrastructure. This is my second year. The first year I was partnered with United Way, and it was super helpful because during the time I was in two courses. One of them was fundraising and resource development, and the other was nonprofit management. And those classes actually gave me the opportunity to be able to work directly with staff and learn so much about how nonprofits operate and then also how they're funded. And I actually got to do quite a bit of fundraising myself. Um, I had a really good time and I enjoyed doing a lot of volunteer work and working directly with the community. And I really wanted to continue my hands-on service-based education. And so I actually renewed my contract with AmeriCorps, and now I'm doing my second service with the Village Project, Inc., which focuses on mental health resources for minorities. We do a lot of outreach and tabling, a lot of tabling, a lot of different events and programs. But something I really enjoyed this time around is that um, a lot of infrastructure building for the volunteer program. There's so much love for my organization that I really just enjoyed being able to create an infrastructure for community members to come and volunteer. Um, and I've learned so much from the seed scale principles, especially being assets-based approach, and then also a lot of the, I guess, like coursework in terms of like doing action plan, logic models. Like that's really come in handy, especially for looking at the volunteer program as a program on its own and really just creating that infrastructure and developing that program. And now we have about, oh man, we have currently about 30 volunteers, which is pretty impressive for a small organization of about 20 staff members. So I think we have more volunteers than staff, which is great. And these are definitely skills that I learned both through my coursework, but then also through conversations with classmates who are also AmeriCorps members or have their own nonprofits and have just like wonderful, valuable information. Um, I would say definitely I would encourage other students to take part in this program because it's super helpful just providing that framework to continue doing community work. I am a returned Peace Corps volunteer and I wanted to continue learning how to do community work and how to do nonprofit work, and it's just been a wonderful opportunity. So thank you.